Jeremy Schaap, what is your barbecue style? One would want to know.
Style? I don't have a style. I mean, I just make a bunch of different stuff. I'm trying. It's a process. It's a hobby. I've got one of those big green eggs, like a Colt. I hope somebody's listening from the company and I get some kind of a sponsorship. I post all this stuff on Instagram to all my dozens of followers of me on the egg, immersed in it. But it's fun. I like to cook. Rich doesn't cook, does he?
He makes great scrambled eggs. He makes delicious pancakes, and he makes me a drink at 5.
I'm skeptical. I don't see Rich really as having that kind of patience. And really it comes down to patience. And there's something innate. I mean, you can only go so far in terms of teaching someone how to cook or grill or barbecue. I think there has to be a kind of sixth sense for it. And I think I have that.
If anybody would have a sixth sense for grilling and cooking, I would imagine it would be you. We are looking at.
This is really a thrill. I mean, that was quite a way to welcome me into the show. Have I ever been on the show when you've been hosting before? I think this is. I wanted to do it for a long time. But I think this is the first time you're having me.
It's a hot ticket in town. I'm just saying, the list is long.
Exclusive, Jeremy.
Anybody can be on with Rich. This is a whole different level.
I try to bring Jeremy Schaap a whole different level when I guest host the Rich Eisen Show out of sheer fear that they won't let me come back. So I try to bring it with me.
Begging you to do it.
We are looking at photographs of you, though. We, of course, doctored them and put on a chef's hat and a chef's smock. I'm curious for what recipe you could share with the Rich Eisen listeners that we can then post on social media. What is your go-to dish?
There are a lot of things that I like to do. The kind of thing, like if you're a beginner, I think it's really almost infallible. Is if you're doing, let's say, baby back ribs, the classic 3, 2, 1. Oh wait, no, 2, 2, 1.
No, you're right.
2, 2, 1 for baby back.
It's 3, 2, 1, Jeremy. You're right. You're on it. You got it.
No. St. Louis style is 3, 2, 1. The bigger ones. The baby back are 2, 2, 1. I think because 6 hours is too much for the baby backs. The St. Louis style. This is great radio, Suzy. Are the 3, 2, 1. So it's 2 hours of smoking. And then you take them off, and what I do is I wrap them in foil, and I pour in some, typically apple juice or beer, something like that. And then you wrap them in the foil, put them back on for 2 hours, get them really steamy, soft, and then you take it off, and you put some kind of, barbecue sauce, some kind of lacquer on it, and put them directly back on the grates for the final, 45 minutes to an hour. And you can't go wrong. You can't go wrong. It doesn't take a lot of prep. You don't have to, marinate it overnight. You don't have to salt it overnight, anything like that. You just put on your rub. You got to peel off that membrane, which sometimes people forget to do. You don't have to, but I prefer to peel off the membrane.
It's an important step for sure. It's important.
It is, right? And you slather it with some mustard so the rub, has some way to adhere to it, and then you go, and you can't go wrong.
Jeremy, do you want to do a cooking show with me? Let's do a cooking show together. Wouldn't that be fun?
I've been trying to for years. I'd love to do a cooking show. I really would. Kind of a cultural food show. Yeah. You get to travel and eat all over the world. But doesn't everybody want to do that?
Wait a minute. Go with me here. You and I host it, right? And it's about the greatest food per sports town. So we go to all the different sports towns. We ask the fans to send us to the right restaurant. We then interview the chefs. I then screw up trying to make it, and you do it beautifully, and you give it historical perspective.
And I get to eat.
Yeah.
Because, we've had a lot of meals together over the years. We spent a lot of time together. I don't think of you, and I say this with all due respect, as really an eater. I mean, you're pretty skinny. I mean, and
oh, Jeremy, I've never loved you more than I do right now.
How much did you pay Jeremy to say that?
What are you trying to say, Chris?
You're upset with me. I thought, I would have taken this as, I'm questioning your bona fides as a real eater, and you're from Boston originally. I'm from New York. It's more of a food town. I think of myself as really more of the person who focuses on the next meal as soon as you've just finished the last meal. And you like
that
food,
is true.
but you're kind of like okay about it. It's not an obsession with you. And maybe that's good to bring a different kind of perspective to it.
Well, because I can
somebody who's just mouth-watering all the time at the thought of the next meal.
Well, you know what I make really, really well? Reservations.
No, you've never cooked for me.
Reservations.
Yes.
I should
have seen that coming.
Jeremy Schaap, Suzy Shuster here on the Rich Eisen Show. Jeremy, you're Mr. Perspective. So that's what I like to have. You're Mr. Perspective. You have great perspective on everything. So you're Mr. Perspective, one of your myriad nicknames. Let's talk about a couple news ideas here. And one of them is, of course, the logo in the NBA. What's your take on the possibility of replacing Jerry West with a modern player? Maybe Kobe Bryant, maybe another one.
Well, it's interesting. So I hope I get the story exactly right, but we're going to go very deep background and perspective on this, Suzy. So I don't know if you ever knew my friend Stacy Siegel from college that I went to college with. Did you ever know Stacy?
I think I met her once, like 20 years ago.
Michael Bloom. So Stacy's father is a guy named Alan Siegel, who grew up with my father on Long Island. And I think Alan's mother, and my grandmother were best friends. Anyway, Alan Siegel, long story short, he also went to Cornell, and he became a very successful brand, marketing, logo person. Like, you'd go to him and he'd create a name for a company. He would create your logo and I guess like your marketing strategy, very successful. And he is the guy who created the NBA logo.
Oh, wow.
Whenever that happened to be. So I think it was the late 60s, right? Maybe it was the mid 60s. And I guess, Jerry West, it was kind of a thing like where it was, Alan said it was Jerry West, but it was never kind of officially Jerry West. It was just presented that way. And it's a great logo. It's been a great logo for a long time. But I understand the desire to update it and to honor Kobe Bryant, one of the great players in the history of the game. And, if they end up doing it, and I don't know where it stands, I heard there was, some talk about doing it recently in the last few days. I like the idea of the symmetry from West to Bryant. The guy who drafted him, the guy who brought him to the Lakers, the guy who was his mentor, who was so close to him, playing the same, both guards, the same team. And I think, logos get updated all the time. They change the designs, they update them for whatever reason, make them more modern, more appealing, more relevant. I think that makes sense. I guess the question is, permanence. What should be permanent? What shouldn't change? What are the things that we expect to just remain the same? And there are very few things like that, right, in life. And certainly when we're talking about these kinds of symbols, which exist after all, to market something, to sell something, the product of the NBA. And at the same time, to honor the heritage of the game and to honor its best players. So if it's going to change, it makes sense to do it with Kobe Bryant.
I think it makes perfect sense. And also, because it has that double entendre of providing an homage to Kobe, who meant so much to the current generation of players. Because if you look at Jerry West, so if he played, 62, 63 around then, and then, so the kids who were coming up in the Jordan era, they knew Jerry. I think that the kids who are playing now, when I say kids, because I'm 48, so I can say kids, but they grew up worshiping Kobe. And to lose him the way that we all lost him, it would seem to me to be the perfect symbolic gesture. The question now will be, as we talked about earlier, then royalties get involved because Jerry West never received a dime for being the logo, so to speak. And the question is, would it then become a huge monetary output if they change the logo?
Oh, really? So it would be the kind of thing where if his likeness is used, his estate would get royalties. Is that what they're saying?
I think that's the understanding, and I think it's a great time for me to call Adam Silver, I guess, after the show and ask him, because you would think at this point, if they use a likeness, you have to pay the estate. But it seems to me that it's the right thing to do.
Makes sense to me. I mean, I don't know anything about the economics of it. I certainly don't know anything about the copyright law or.
You have to know everything about everything, Jeremy Schaap. Everything.
I could fake it, but yeah, that makes sense to me. And I remember growing up with logos for different teams, for different leagues, whatever it might be. And they adapt, they evolve, they change. And Jerry West, as the silhouette of the NBA, has had a great run.
That's just a thought we had. That's just something that occurs to us, and we'll do a little bit of deep diving after the show. Jeremy Schaap here on The Rich Eisen Show. I'm Suzy Shuster, sitting in for Rich. I was really moved by your Tiger Woods piece yesterday on ESPN. Obviously, we're all sitting here wondering, the accident happened sheer miles from our studio here in El Segundo, and we're all wondering what's next for Tiger Woods. But your piece, as always, was just beautifully written, and I'm curious to hear about your. Oh, you're welcome. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this as you watch and what occurs to you.
Well, I think it's the way most people feel, right? The way the vast majority of people looking at this must feel that he's fortunate to be alive, emerging from that kind of a wreck, that kind of a crash. That our first thought has to be about being able to lead a normal life, to be healthy and to walk and to do the things that he was able to do before this happened on Tuesday morning. And then you think about the scope of his career and the arc of his life over the last 25 years. And you think about how long he has been a presence in our lives and how we've seen these remarkable ups, these incredible highs, peaks in an athletic career that are unsurpassed, really, certainly in the 21st century, in the late 20th century. One of the few athletes, when you throw around the word icon, it's understatement with Tiger Woods. And then we've also seen, his struggles and the events of Thanksgiving weekend 2009 and how that changed the narrative around Tiger Woods in a flash, in a moment, and this sudden fall from grace. And then the physical struggles that would come later with his back and the times when it seemed like he would never really be able to beat Tiger Woods on the golf course again, in that remarkable victory 2 years ago at the Masters after an 11-year interval between his 14th and his 15th Grand Slam wins, major titles. It's a remarkable novelistic story and life, but there's a person at the center of it. And it was when I heard the news a couple of days ago, Suzy, at about, I guess it was around a little before 3:00 Eastern time. By that time, what I was being told, and I think everybody was hearing, was that these were not life-threatening. And so, there's immediately relief there, and you can take a breath. Okay, he's going to be okay. He's going to live. But these are very serious injuries from what we're hearing, and the doctors we've been consulting, and we don't know if he's ever going to be able to play golf again. And of course that's secondary to the larger story. But I'm also thinking about 2 months ago when he played at the PNC Championship with Charlie, and that kind of image that sticks in my mind now of Tiger Woods, seeming comfortable in a way, on camera and with the media and kidding around and having fun with his 11-year-old son, and how we were seeing a new side of Tiger. He was allowing us to see a different side of himself. And that relationship with the media that had been at times so adversarial. And, obviously, 4 years ago, we're talking about, those images of him getting pulled over or asleep on the side of the road, and the things that he has had to deal with and the mistakes that he has made, and then the physical challenges. It's just, there's so much there. And all we can hope for, it's trite, but what could be more essential, that he's just okay.
I can't say enough about that, and about the fact that I look at the pictures of him with Charlie, and all I think about are Kobe and Gianna. So we are, as you said, so grateful that he will come out of this and hopefully make some kind of recovery.
You think about Ben Hogan too, right? I mean, you think about the car accident, the crash that Ben Hogan was in 1949, and he was a younger man at that point than Tiger Woods is now. I think Hogan was 35 at the time of that crash in West Texas, which left him in the hospital, I think, for 59 days. It's a different scenario, but when you're talking about two of the 5 or 6 greatest golfers of all time, maybe 2 of the 3 greatest golfers of all time, both surviving crashes like that, you have to draw parallels.
Jeremy, thank you as always for your perspective, your time, and your recipes. Come back every single time I'm on, please.
I will, invited or otherwise.
I'm always happy to have you, Crash. Jeremy, thanks again for your time.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.